Hello, Marianne. Welcome to the Power Talk Show powered by Business Talks Weekly. Thank you for joining our podcast, our channel today, and accepting our invitation. Before we start and dive into a conversation, can we run through your professional background and what led you to start your own company, a consulting company?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Naveen, and hello to all the listeners that are listening in on this episode. Um, I joined a business that you may have heard of called McDonald's many moons ago. And to be honest, when I joined, I said to my parents, "I'll just join McDonald's until I get a proper job." That was my thinking at the time. And then as I sort of was drawn into the way McDonald's operates and how they get things done and the way they progress their people, I ended up spending 27 years with them. I learned so much from that experience, and I gained a lot of insight about what makes business consistent and how to achieve scale at speed. I mean, at times, certainly in the 80s, which is probably before many of your listeners were even born, McDonald's were opening a restaurant in the UK every 7 days. I mean, it just was crazy times. When I left McDonald's, I knew that I wanted to start my own business, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't actually sure what in. I thought that I would work in the area of customer experience and, because I'd had a great time as head of customer services for a couple of years during my time at McDonald's. And I thought, yeah, I'll go into customer service. And I joined a program, and I was obviously, you're surrounded by other entrepreneurs and obviously the mentors who were leading it. And they said, why aren't you why don't you have a business built around systemizing and making other businesses consistent? Because that's what McDonald's are all about. And honestly, nobody ever talked about um, systems and processes at McDonald's. It was just the McDonald's way. You learned the McDonald's way to do things, and you were trained to do it that way. You were given feedback, whether you get it right or not. Everybody just followed the McDonald's way, and nobody would dream of doing anything different. And the more I started working with smaller businesses, the more I recognized that that is really unusual. That in most businesses, there is not one right way to do everything. You know, there is Naveen's way, there is John's way, there is Julie's way. When people leave, they take when people leave a business, they take their way with them. And then it's like everybody has to start from scratch. So it was a really difficult transition from leaving a big corporate to working with small businesses. And for certainly the first 12 months, I would have business owners say to me, "Marianne, will you stop talking corporate? All this jargon but just can you just keep it simple?" And that's what I tried. I've tried to do that ever since. Just keep things really simple. Talk to people using the language that they would use every day, because the language of systems really blocks people from putting them in place. I mean, I don't know about you, but the word process, even though I talk about it all the time, and even though I love what it does for a business, it shrinks a little bit of my soul every time I say it. Process. And you see the shutters come down on people's faces, especially in teams. It's like, oh God, not another process. Whereas if you just talk about, right, let's agree the best way to do this task and make it our way. This is our business way of doing this task. It's simple, it's logical, it's repeatable. Let's do it that way. And then you make it stick. Then it's just people get that. They understand that. Whereas, if you start talking about Lean Six Sigma and
Yeah.
having black belts in, process, just, yeah, yeah. So for me, it's all about just making things as simple as possible and making life easier, because the only reason systems exist is to make life easier, whether that's for the customer, for the business owner, or for the team. And if a system doesn't make life easier, it's the wrong system. So that's a very long way around telling you how I got how I got to do. I hope it has given you the right context, that it's really all about keeping things simple in order to scale.
Understood. Understood. So, Marian, when I visit your website and I did quite the research, I come across a term called as sticky systems. So, can you explain, as maybe your audience will come to be more familiar about what do you
I,
mean about process and sticky
absolutely.
systems?
Absolutely. Well, for me, there are 4 sets of systems in every business. The first set is what I call the sexy systems. And they are marketing and branding and the systems that business owners love to get into. They will invest loads of their own time, money, energy on their sexy systems because they're the look at me systems. And of course, they're really important because we've got to attract customers to our business, but they get a disproportionate amount of time, energy, and money invested in them. Then there are the security systems, and these are, your accounting, your finance, your cash flow management, your legal systems. And what business owners usually do with these is they will find an expert, a professional to look after them. So a really good accountant, a lawyer, maybe IP lawyer to look after their, trademarking and so on. And then they will go, okay, you look after them. Just let's have a conversation once a month. But I don't really want to get into, I know some business owners love getting into their numbers, but most of the business owners I work with, it's like, my accountant deals with that and they tell me if I've got enough money to invest or there's a problem and then we work on it. So sexy, security. Third set are the service systems. And these are the systems that if a business owner says, I'm going to systemize my business, these are the systems they work on because these are the nuts and bolts of their operation, how they get things done, how, the whole customer journey is based on your service systems, how you invoice, how you um, uh, onboard a customer, etc., etc. So they are massively important, and a lot of if a business owner decides that they're going to systemize their business, they will focus on those systems. But then we come to the fourth set, the sticky systems, and these are the ones that make all of the others stick. They're the ones that McDonald's really focus on heavily and invest heavily in. And that's hiring the right people. So having a good hiring system that attracts the right people, that hires them, that has a good probation system that makes sure that if somebody manages to get past the interview into the business, they get spotted very quickly as not being a good fit and they leave. So your hiring system, your training system, training your one way of doing things so that it sticks, so that it really goes it sticks in your brain. If I can tell you that there are things that I learned over 40 years ago, my God, am I really that old? But I learned that long ago in McDonald's that I could still do today. I could walk into a restaurant now and I could still do them because the training was, they didn't let you do it any other way. They made sure that you followed the McDonald's way. So hiring system, training system, and then feedback system. And that's the one that certainly as a Brit, I see this a lot. We are not very good at giving feedback. We make a joke of it, or we use sarcasm, or we just, how was your meal? Fine. I'm never coming back here again. We're just terrible at it. Other nationalities are much better. The Americans, for example, are very good at giving direct feedback. So you need to have a feedback system. You want to give feedback day to day, but then also once a quarter, every team member needs their time in the sun to be told what they're doing really well, but how they could improve, and what they're not doing so well and how they could improve. And I was always taught at McDonald's that when you give feedback, the aim should be to inspire and motivate somebody to improve their performance. That it's not about putting them down and making them feel terrible. It's about inspiring them to go, yeah, you're right, I'm going to do that better next time. And a lot of feedback, obviously, as we know, tends to be negative feedback rather than constructive and positive feedback. But those three systems together really make all of the other systems work. They make all of the other systems stick. Right people, trained well, and given good feedback. One other thing on training, because you'll often hear the words training and development, like they're one word. And they're not, they're very different. Again, what I learned as I was growing up literally in McDonald's was that you train people to do their job really well. So you have a really good training system to make sure that people do their job really well. And then you develop them as people. So you develop them by challenging them, by giving them feedback, by constantly telling them how they can improve. So training and development become these two amazing things that make sure that everybody's doing their job really well, but the people who've got potential are really fulfilling that potential because you're constantly pushing them and challenging them. And that was my experience at McDonald's. I went in there as the most naive 21-year-old you are ever likely to meet. Oh my Lord, I had such a protected upbringing. But they made me a restaurant manager within 12 months. And I was running a £1 million restaurant. I had two 18-year-old floor managers supporting me. I had a team of 50 people. And that wasn't because I was some genius leader. It was because one, I was challenged to do it, but two, I was given all of the systems to follow that I needed. And I was supported by a manager who developed me, who gave me feedback, who pushed me. And that's what happens in a good business. A business owner will hire only the right people, and they won't settle for people who aren't right. Quite often you get somebody in, and then you get sort of 3 months down the line, and you think, I've invested 3 months in them, I'm not letting them go. Where it should be, they are going because they're taking the space of somebody who could be perfect. So bringing those right people in, giving that training and development and feedback makes a really sticky situation in a really good way.
Yeah. So, Marianne, you have been working, you have worked at McDonald's for so many years, and now you're working with so much clients, so diversified industry. What
Yes.
challenges do you face, when you talk to founders and entrepreneurs about systems and processes? How do they react?
As you can imagine, if I manage to get in the door, no, it is really interesting. I think because I try not to use the language of systems and processes, and because I talk about the importance of developing your way of doing things and bringing the team along with you, a lot of the business owners that I start working with feel that they have to do everything themselves. So they feel that they have to systemize their business. That's not the case. If you've already got a team who are working really well, you've got, I don't know, Janet she's really, really good at her job. You love the way she does what she does. Then you get her to capture the way she does each task,
Yeah.
but not with written documents. Most people go straight to, oh, I need to document my processes. No, you need to capture the way things get done, ideally as a how-to video. There are so many great little apps. I use Loom all the time. Use Loom all the time to capture how-to videos, because videos are so much easier to learn from. We all use them online. We go to how do I do anything online, and you can watch a video, you can pause, rewind, you can say, oh yeah, I see, right. Okay, I'll go and that's what our people need. And when you start talking like that to a business owner, when you tell them that it shouldn't all be on them, it should be on them and their team who are already working well to capture the way we are going to do things going forward, then it becomes that much easier. The most difficult part, the biggest challenge I have is convincing people to invest the time in training people right first time, and to invest the time in having a one-to-one performance review every quarter with every team member. I really struggle to convince people that is a just an amazing investment of time. And it's so sad because when you when you engage people, when they feel that they're getting the feedback that they need, when they feel that they are being valued, or they're even being sometimes when they feel they're being seen,
Yeah.
because in every business there are. My sister always talks about this: the choir, the congregation, and the crypt. And the people in the crypt are your troublemakers, the people who you take home at night and bore your other half with, oh, you know what they did today. So you're constantly talking about and working on the crypt. The choir are your high flyers who, oh God, she's amazing. If only everybody was like her. And then your congregation are the people who come in, day out, do a good job, don't cause any trouble, don't set the word of delight, but they don't get any feedback because they're doing a good job. Well, I've been into loads of businesses where somebody else, I'll say, how are you doing? Well, nobody shouted at me, so I'm assuming I'm doing okay. Everybody needs input. Everybody wants their time in the sun. And if I could convince every business owner to invest more time in their sticky systems, hiring right and not settling, training so that they understand and get your way of doing things, feedback so that you continue to develop them and grow them and keep them on track. My God, so many business owners would have an easier life. They would have so much an easier life. They would have so much more time freedom because they would have people who take ownership. And really, that's what we all want. That's what every business owner I talk to wants: more time freedom. They want to be able to scale or to franchise or to sell their business. And it's the same thing that will help them to achieve all of those.
How does company culture or a entrepreneur founder's culture plays role into developing the systems and making it successful?
A really, really, really important culture. And again, for me, culture is built around the team you have. If I ask the question, which I always do, if you had the chance to rehire all of your team tomorrow, you had the chance to rehire them all, how many would make the cut? How many would stay? How many would go? I very, very rarely get a business owner that says, absolutely love them all. They would all stay. They're amazing. There is almost always at least one person who is not right, who's sometimes never been right, who is, moody, snarly, whatever. And when it comes to culture, that one person, and it usually is more than one, but that one person can undermine the whole culture,
Yeah.
can get everybody else just feeling, "Well, if they're working like that, why should I bother? If they're not, if the business owner is not prepared to do something about them, then what's the point?" And it can really bring the culture down. When you've got the right team around you with the right culture, everything is easier. And for me, culture comes from values that are lived, not laminated. A lot of businesses have laminated values. They've got them up on their wall, or have even made every team member print them out and stick them on their desk or on their phone. Values have got to be lived, and they come from the top, but every team member needs to be understanding. You get a lot of, you must have seen this a lot now, been doing what you do, a lot of one word values. So you'll say to somebody, so what's your team values? Well, it's integrity, it's purpose driven, it's ownership. Okay, if I'm a new team member, what does that mean to me in the workplace? How do I show that I'm purpose driven? What does it mean to me? What do I have to do? And I love with business owners saying, okay, these values are great. I think I get where you're coming from. Tell me what that looks like day to day for your team. Tell me how you make sure that they know what you're talking about. Because they're great words. It's usually the first two out of people's mouths are usually honesty and integrity. It's like, well, they're sort of business 101. If you haven't got honesty and integrity, you're really in trouble. But it's like, what values are great and values build a culture. But if, for example, going back to that person that's being settled for, if this person that's a real, just a fly in the ointment, they're constantly whinging or moaning or turning up late or snapping at other team members, and they're a superstar on their day, but most of the time they're just a pain in the rear end for the rest of the team. They aren't living the values of your business. They can't be. Unless you've got very strange values, they can't be. So it's so important to remove those people from your business. It really is. Because it massively impacts the culture, and the culture will drive this. We are in this together. I want every business to have a we and us culture rather than a me and them. And business owners, when they feel that they have to be in charge of everything, when they feel that they have to decide everything, they have to do everything, it's definitely me and them. And once you get a we and us culture, you will absolutely fly as a business, because those team members will all want to work for that team that you've created. It becomes a proper team. Another little thing, you get a lot of business owners. I'm currently trying to beat this out of. I may get physical, beat this out of the team that I'm working with now. All of the managers call the team members staff, and the word staff for me, it's like the word process. It's like sort of implies to me that you're looking at people as numbers,
Yeah.
as resources, not as team members. These are members of your team. They're not staff. Staff is so, I don't know, Victorian.
Yeah. Ah,
It's not. Yeah. So yes, building that team of we, giving them our way of working and then making it stick. That's where it's at for me now.
absolutely, absolutely. So, Marianne, there's so many technology advancements, AI, and all these systems coming into place. How do these techno tech platforms help you with, scaling up the system and building up the system?
Yeah. I think they help particularly with the sexy systems. Automating all of those marketing systems, automating quite a lot of the security systems as well. In terms of accounting, reporting, invoicing. On the customer journey, there are so many automations, AI and otherwise. But obviously, AI speeds things up massively. The one thing though that I pull back from is when a business owner will say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to get AI to create all of my processes." Because that's saying, right, a robot effectively is going to know better than my team member who's already doing it really well. What I would love to see is that they get their team members to agree the one right way to do everything, get their team members to capture that one right way on video, and then get the robots to pull all of the information out of that video into a document for anybody that prefers working off documents. So, to take the transcript of it, to put diagrams in or whatever. I'm a big fan of AI, although I will admit that I am one of those people who probably only works with Chat GPT. We are very good friends, though, Chat and I. We have lovely
Yeah,
conversations. So, I don't know much beyond Chat. I am trying to learn, but there's a lot out there. But yeah, for me, there will be a lot of help for team members throughout the customer journey. There are a lot of things that can be automated, but I would just counsel people against getting AI to create their processes. If you want to, and again, it comes back to that culture. If you want everybody to buy into this is the most simple, logical, and repeatable way of doing this task, then the individuals doing the task have to have input into that, have to have involvement in creating our way of doing things. Then they'll buy into it. If you just go, here's a process, follow this, well, I'm not sure that's going to work. It's much better if you agree it together.
absolutely. Marianne, one final question. What do you feel? What should be the mindset of an entrepreneur starting a new business towards the processes?
Yeah. Starting a new business, if they're starting out on their own, the most important thing for me is that they start capturing their routine tasks, things that they do every day, every week, every month, once a quarter, particularly the ones that they only do once a quarter or once a year, because otherwise they'll get to that quarter of the year point and go, oh, how did I do that again? Oh, I don't know. So capturing those as they go along means that when they bring in their first team member, they've already sort of thought through their way of doing things. And okay, their new team member may come in and say, have you thought about doing this? No, I hadn't. Right, do you know what I mean? So the
Yeah.
team builds like that. But for somebody starting out on their own, those are the sorts of things that I would do. I would start capturing them. I think for a business that's already established but growing, shall we say, so still small but growing, it is about getting together. One, it's about assessing your team right now and making sure that if there is anybody that needs to go, that they go now. Then it's about getting with your team and thinking about the way that we want to work, developing our way of doing things. Stick their business name on it, like the McDonald's way of doing things, the Marianne Page way of doing things, the Naveen way of doing things. But really get with the team and start building that from this point, because as people leave, and people do leave, or they get sick, or they go on holiday, if you've already started capturing your way of doing things, then it makes it so much easier for the new person coming in. They don't have to start from scratch. You don't want them to start from scratch. You want them to do things your way. You might have invested heavily in your first or second or third team member to get them up to the level you want. They leave, or even they don't leave, they just bring somebody new comes in. You want to be able to say, this is our way of doing things, and give them training, but then back it up with how-to videos.
Absolutely. Wonderful advice. Marian, thank you so much for joining our podcast, our channel today. It's been a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. I've loved it. It's been great. Thank you, Navin.